John was just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So you go to Tennessee, and I don't know much about Marc Sylvester after that. And I purposely didn't dig into anything and look into anything. So
well, thank you for not putting my name in the Let's Run message boards then.
No, and I've never been that kind of person of just like tooling around those sort of things. And you know, like I said, I literally the only thing I did in terms of prep for this was the IAAF site. And I just remember you from high school because I was your same year. I just remember every year trying to watch somebody come anywhere near your record within 2 or 3 seconds of your record. And that's about it. And I saw that you won NACAC U23. Like
I did. Yeah. Tennessee was, I never use the word regret. Never will. It is a forming part of my life, good and all of the bad that also happened there. But I still talk to my brothers that I ran with. We still left our mark there. So Tennessee is always going to be in my heart for that. So go to Tennessee. Little did I know that the team's fortunes were going to change because we had when I signed in 2001, they signed a little known freshman out of Pensacola, Florida named Justin Gatlin, who did okay for himself. So they were coming off the outdoor national championship when I entered there. So we were already riding high, pretty much being the #1 rated track team in the country. So there was a good pressure in that. I had very good leadership, and they taught me the whys, like why do we warm up the way we do? Why we do certain things and preparation. How do we handle something like the SEC meets? They're like, you can say, yeah, okay, I get it. I know. Until you're in that, you have no idea. And we're not just trying to go and do well at SECs, but this is the standard. We're trying to win another national championship. So Justin, the sprint leadership group, and then also my group that had some seniors, Jabri Harris, who's coaching at Azusa Pacific, Adrian Wheatley, who's at Ball State, like they were the ones that really helped lay down that foundation. So indoor happens, and I was running pretty well. We didn't do a lot of mileage. It was a lot of hill work.
So I assume they didn't have you run cross.
You had to be on the team. But I didn't race officially any of the races. So again, to get around whatever the SEC hour rule was, I was a squad member, but I never did anything. And then, so we did a lot of hill work. And then we would split from the cross team right around conference, because they would do conference and then everything jumps up to 10K. So then they would have theirs. We would start to work down and then do like our fall testing. And my breakthrough race would have been DMR February of 2002 in the Armory. I ended up splitting like 147 mid or low or something. And it was like, okay, like I'm in pretty good shape. And so we go into nationals, get through the first round. That's fine. Finals. Hey, we're going to wear these cool black speed suits and it's going to look cool and everything. And I was like, yeah, on you guys, I'll wear it, but I don't look that cool. And so, but results were good. I mean, I was chasing Otakile Lakote, who was the NCAA champion out of South Carolina. He was a fast starter, ways that I like to do my race. And it was just ride his behind and see what happens. I was able to move well from 7 to 800. I finished second, and I went 147.41 indoor. I finished second, and we won the national championship indoor. And then, pretty successful outdoor was, running well, and then just ran into not enough real estate in the final. So finished 6th outdoor with my PR was 146.21. First place was Lakota at 145.1. So there were, 6 of us within a second of each other just charging down the line. But, great learnings. And I was like, well, I'll be back. And, this is how we do things. And so that was good success. But with that success, honestly, if you ask like what happened, was I guess, lack of who was I comfortable being more than just this runner. And also, you win a national championship. I don't care what the sport is at the University of Tennessee. A lot of things get opened to you, if you will. So it was, coming back, walking into the weight room and bunch of football players are sitting there and they're like, oh, it's the white boy. It's the white boy that ran the 800. It's like, you can do whatever you want. It's Tennessee. And I'm like, no. They're like, you just won a national championship. So bad habits, never, frankly, never had to worry about a fake ID, never had to worry about going in here. And I never did any of that stuff in high school. Like, I never drank. I never did any of that. And it was just opened up to being like the fun guy that was part of that. So that eventually led to a lot of problems and downfalls there.
Yeah. And did you continue racing, performing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could have done a lot better, but I mean, going to my sophomore year, I was probably the fittest I ever was. And I mean, I was going out a ton. I mean, I say this and I never say this as like, this is cool, because audience, it's not. But like, I went out like, rage partying the week before SECs. I still went 146.53, won the SEC championship, which was the fastest time in the country at the time.
Yeah.
And, was doing that and burning the candle on both ends ridiculously. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to sit there and just be like, we're going to have like any of the guests you've had there, especially I know you had EB on here. He's like the goal setting. I'm like, if the goal is like, I'm going to be this, it's like, I was not following the rules or following what it would take to do this. I just got away with it because I was that talented. Mm-hmm. So a lot of bad habits, a lot of like long nights, which turned into, I'm just going to focus on training table and practice. Like, there are classes I'm supposed to go to. Nah, it's okay. So there was just, again, my priorities were just way off, sunk lower and lower, and didn't find the right outlets for help, or just trying to break any of that vicious cycle. So it just caught up to me.
Wow. When did it all come to a head?
Oh, yeah. So junior year, 2004, I come back, and again, moderately successful year. I finished 4th at NCAAs. We had a good time. I had a new freshman teammate, Paul Cross, out of Florida, and he finished 3rd. He was SEC champ that year. I was 3rd. He was running 146 as a freshman, 147. Like, when we were jiving together. And so, but just everything else around me was just collapsing. And I come back after that year, so fall semester 04, absolute train wreck. Absolute. No better way to sugarcoat it. And I just fell into complete apathy, if you will, for anything else besides, hey, I'm here to train and do this. And it really came to a head. Ultimately, I was supposed to take finals, and I was like, nah, I'm okay. And so I was pretty much resigned to the fact that this was my last little semester at the University of Tennessee. So I got the dismissal that year of, you can't be here anymore, which was tough. But I fully own it. Those were my decisions. Yeah. And that was, my decision not to seek help. I mean, and some of the people that have been very nice to me in my life were like, oh, Tennessee should have monitored this more. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they could have monitored more, but like, the adage, you lead a horse to water. Like, I'm supposed to be the one that sparks the change in myself, not them babysitting me the whole time, because who knows if they're enforcing a lot more rules, how much more off the deep end I could have went to just buck that authority. So I just wasn't there. And so I moved back here, and I started to turn it around a little bit. I was living here in Cleveland. I was taking classes at Tri-C Metro, and I was running a little bit. So I actually knew some of the people at John Carroll, and the coaches were nice enough. I'm like, hey, if you want to like help pace workouts and everything for us, like come by. And I was like, all right. So I was in decent shape, and actually it was first one was Brad Hunt, who was at Kent State at the time. Yeah. And he had a deal. He struck up a deal with Coach Watts and was like, hey, Kent State's a lot closer than Tennessee, obviously. Once he gets through this little bit, if he comes here and runs, because he had Ray and Mike were still there. Yeah. He goes, you can write his workouts. I'll just time him. Let's just get him through graduation, and he can go back to you if he runs professionally. He can stay here if he wants. But I think like his mom, everyone would feel a little bit better if they was closer to home and having that structure. And so that was the first one that reached out. The other one was Coach Quintana. I believe he's at Oregon State now, but at the time he was at Arizona State. And he was like, hey, when I was at Villanova, I had some of these pitfalls as well. I want to help you out. Just get through these classes at the community college. We'd love to get you out there for a visit. And I'm like, okay. So things seemed positive. And then I never heard from them. And so I sent a text to Brad, and he was like, I can't talk to you. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, Tennessee denied all of your releases.
Oh my gosh.
Huh.
So no one can talk to you. And so I was just stuck.
What a weird world that was compared to where we're at now.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's like 100% leverage on the athlete now, and you had no leverage.
None. I mean, I was trying to just go anywhere. So again, like we can.
So basically, honest. If you had left on your own fruition, that would have been a different scenario.
No, you had to still get a release. Any transfer, you had to get a release.
You had to get a release. I guess I didn't realize. I guess
so. They just wanted you to come back at some point.
No, this was my penance. So it wasn't from my coach. No. This was from the head coach. This was my penance for messing up, not just the team dynamic, recruits, everything. This was the penance. Was you will not get a release, son.
And you're not coming back.
Yeah. Oh no, I wasn't allowed to. So it was made known because Watts was like, "Hey, you stick around here. You can still train. You know, maybe if there's a community college, maybe we can get you back in. If not." Just, run well enough. We get you, because this, again, the times were not great, but the times like maybe we just get you like a basic shoe deal with Reebok or one of them, and let's just have you live in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And, they were like, oh, you can train in Knoxville, but it will never be on this track again. Wow. So it was that was definitely the penance for everything. So it was way different than it is now. Was there
an official falling out? Was there like a moment that kind of stands out in their mind that made them better, other than just the fact that you just came in out of shape and just kind of didn't follow the rules? You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like almost personal.
Yeah, that feels personal.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was ever really out of shape. I still performed. I mean, I still scored and everything there.
Yeah, but the junior year when you came in 2004.
Yeah. So, I mean, still, I know I was in great shape that year.
Okay.
Oh, no, I was phenomenal shape. Like going into like being dismissed, my fall testing, I mean, I did a workout. I did 8 by 200 meter hill, then went to the track and then split like 150.5, like on a workout. Like I was in good shape in the fall. I just would go out and be out till 4 a.m. or whatever it was.
Right.
I think just again, if you ask like the kind of breaking point, I meet with the head coach. So my coach is obviously more heartbroken. He's the one who recruited me. He was like the father figure for me. And he obviously was like, what were you doing? You should have reached out this. Yeah. And again, he had moments of upset and moments that he was very upset, but that was fine. Coach Webb was not as forgiving. And he was just like, now our recruiting's all messed up. We have kids in the pipeline that were coming here to train with you. That's screwed up for the next couple of years. Our team scores are messed up for the next years. We have Paul here that came here for you. And like, that was he was the one, because he has his hand on the button when it comes to any of those releases or anything there. Not my actual event coach.
Wow,
man.
Wow.
So it was a rough one. And, once I found that out, I didn't want to run another step. This was like 2005. And then, so I really didn't run much. And then I get a call. I get a very random call from Justin Gatlin. And he's like, hey, Mark, how's it going? I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Yeah, I've been better. He's like, I have someone who wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay. So I answer, or he passes on the phone and goes, hey, Mark, this is Trevor Graham calling. How are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing well, coach. How are you? Mm-hmm. And Trevor pitched me on the idea that he wanted me to join Speed City and just kind of be the 800 kind of person in the group. And I don't know if this would have been a favor from Justin because he and I were so close and everything. And, you heard all the rumors, especially even around that time. But, a couple of the things he was just saying was like, oh, you come down here, don't worry about anything. We'll take care of this. And I was like, in my head, just in life, you're like, if I didn't really deserve this. You really, to get something for nothing, there's always a string attached to it. It just seemed a little like almost mafia-like. And so I was like, oh, coach, thank you so much. I just don't know if I could be fully committed to you and everything right now. I've been working on myself. So I kind of just dismissed that. And then about a week or two later, I got a call from the Godfather himself, Frank Gagliano, and I won't, again, much like the Irish accent, I won't try to do his accent, but he's like, I'm out here, on the farm team. You have to work, you have to do everything, but like you have a spot if you want to come train with us. So I flew out to Northern California in January of 2006 with like $100 in my pocket and started training with him. And I was with him in 06 and 07.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I was on the farm team that year. And then we moved to Eugene, and I was on the first year of the Oregon Track Club. So I trained with like Nick Simmons and all of those guys. Yeah.
Did you compete?
I did all right. I think it was again, nothing stellar. I want to say the first year I show up, I'm like 200 pounds. Gags is like, what the hell? Like he's what? Yeah, he's like, I know of you, people vouch for you, and like you showed up. I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? And so he basically was like, all right, here's the deal. We all know your potential. We need you. I would love to bring you to Oregon. This is the rumors that's going to happen. I need you to put down some kind of time or show some kind of progression. When I sit here, when I tell you I couldn't do a 3-mile warm up and I was trying to do 200s in like 30 seconds, I couldn't do it. That was like January. And then by end of March at the Stanford Invite, I went like 149 something.
That's
just
freaking insane.
The engine.
So what he did was he just basically said, I'm going to put you in pieces of workouts, but it's all going to be at their pace. So you're essentially just going to be racing into shape. You'll have no base whatsoever. This whole season's a wash, but I need you to put something down. So if it was like 600s, he was like, can you give me, 400 at this pace? So as they're doing the 6, like you're leading them, don't mess it up. I'm like, okay, coach. And so that was the beginning of that one. And then 07 was a little bit better. I think I ran 147 or something like that in 07. But I just, part of the issues that started at Tennessee were creeping back up. I had some emotional things. I just, had a bad breakup, had other things, was kind of falling apart. And speaking earlier of the few conversations that will never leave me, was I got done, bombed out at USA's that year, bombed bad in the first round. And so Gags meets me in the little room. We all lived in like the same apartment complex in Eugene. And he's like, well, Vin and Nike are going to cut you, but I want you to stick around. I know how to coach you. Like now we've been together a couple years. I know how to work this, strength work and everything here. I will make sure, don't ask me how, but I will make sure that your rent's paid for. You'll get gear, you'll get everything, but you need to get a job for all of your side money and everything. And, I want you here. I want you training. He goes, you commit, you do this. There's no reason that you and Simmons can't make the 08 Olympic team. He goes, one caveat, one thing, if I ever hear you having a drop of alcohol, you're on the first plane out of here. And, part of it when, all the issues I had, did not care about the nameless face. I did not care if I was taking Nike's money and kind of, screwing around, whatever, but I cared for that man way too much. And I just looked at him and I was like, if you're vouching for me this hard, I just don't know if I could commit that hard back to you. Yeah. And he looked at me and he goes, if you leave now, you'll never race again. And I never raced again.
Wow. That's heavy. That's pretty wild.
Dang. Because I was just about to ask when you really hung up the shoes and
how was that?
I was, was I even? That would have been 07. Yeah, I wasn't even 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I got no words to that.
So then that leads to, if you did research, all the wonderful things people say about me on Let's Run.com.
Zero.
Yeah, zero.
Actually, zero.
No, it was, again, I think we were talking about some of the prep stuff. You can ask me anything. I'm not ashamed of anything now. It's just what it was.
Right.
It was a different phase of my life. I didn't handle things well. It was just how I had coping mechanisms for things. And I was able to shield a lot of perceived issues around my life because I could still perform.
Yeah.
So, again, if you're coaching me, Lil, and I go and I'm killing it in the workout and all you see me is for those couple hours and I'm, chipper and everything's all fine, you have no idea what I'm doing for the other 21.
Without going into like too much detail, because what I find interesting about like, the story that you shared, which I thank you for sharing that, because that's pretty big, is that like you go from Ignatius where it's like competing, it's a brotherhood, like kind of non-structured, you're wearing your clothes, you're wearing whatever, to then going to Tennessee where it becomes more structured and it becomes more uniform. It becomes more of like this more buttoned up thing. And it's like, was part of that, like that transition, just kind of like, I need that time to kind of like be myself, be this like, like not disorganized guy, but like
have a little bit more control.
Yeah. Like you have more, like, I guess maybe like some responsibility to yourself, where now it was like, we're going to structure this. You're going to know what you're doing from the time you get here in August to the time that you're done in June or later. Like, and it's just like you needed an outlet, but that outlet happened to be what it was,
Yeah, partially. I think, in the word structure, we can, get into the semantics of like the structure and things. So Ignatius, how we had those kind of things was a little bit more, as we say, less structured, as in uniform, everything there. But the things about Ignatius that had the structure was school.
Right.
I lived at home. Meals were all set. That was fine. Also, and you know what? And I'll say this. I think like I go to church every Sunday now. Like I had that religious aspect as well. There was something about doing something more greater than yourself or giving something greater to yourself because I was Catholic going to Ignatius. That a lot of that wrapped into my identity of who I was from ages 14 to 18.
Yeah.
My identity at Tennessee was I was a runner. I was a highly recruited runner. A lot of this could be on me and the socialization that I did. I only hung out with other athletes.
Right.
I hung out with the football team. I hung out with the basketball team. I hung out with the other track guys. What were we? We were the athletes. And so, like I said, doors open more like, yeah, you can go into this club. You can do this. You have people giving you stuff and everything was fine. Not like illegal. Be like, oh, they'll buy you drinks or do whatever because that's just what it was.
Right.
And then, once the quote unquote floodgates kind of opened when I actually started, actually imbibing and everything, I was like, oh, like the fun guy. Like I have like an energetic thing like about it. People, like again, if I were I think maybe, and this is just, hindsight's 2020. I have no idea. We're playing armchair psychologist right now. I don't know if I were more of a depressive drunk, if I would have maybe reached out for help or someone would have reached out more before. But I never was that. I was the guy like, oh, let's go get another round and let's do this and let's just, and keep the energy up. So it was always the fun guy. So it was the guy you wanted to be around, which health-wise and everything was just draining me. But that was something I clung to because that gave me an identity, as I felt like, again, I'm in a quote unquote, and I know it's like foreign land. I'm not from Tennessee. I'm not here, but this was carved out who I was.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting. So from Gags's conversation on, so what happened after that?
Yeah. So just kind of bounced around doing a lot of stuff because again, looking at who am I, in the whole philosophical sense, like a lot of it was, and I got into bad habits again because I'm around Cleveland, Ohio. I was back here, bump into somebody, my brother just graduated. He ran at Miami, Ohio. He just graduated. We would go out and like, you see somebody and was like, oh, Eric. And he's like, oh, that's your brother. Like, hey man, aren't you supposed to be in the Olympics? Like, what did you do, man? Or, the comments that you would see that, this is why I just don't think I could ever be on social media now, like in the way that kids are like, oh, if I had your talent, I would have done all of this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what everyone tells me. But, I'm sorry. I guess I let you all down by doing this.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of it was tough. And a lot of it was just the same kind of stuff as I was trying to figure out what I was doing. Also just, I didn't have my degree. So it was like, career-wise, was like, what am I going to do? So I kind of bounced around for a few years. And then very much luckily, a buddy of mine whom I ran with on the farm team, Brendan Mahoney, this was the rise of CrossFit. So like 2011, 2012, he owned a CrossFit gym in San Mateo, California. And he was like, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm just in Cleveland. I'm in my loft with my buddy and everything. He's like, how's your life? I was like, well, not really great. I mean, I'm just, day to day, just getting through everything. He's like, come out here. Like, just, you can coach at the gym with me, get a little side job, but just get out here, break away from being home for a while and just kind of reinvent who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved out there. I helped out at his gym. I worked part-time at a Lululemon, and just things fell into place. I met my now current wife in 2012
Mhm.
and we started dating. And then the second phase of my running life started. I would just pop in the local running store. Shout out to a Runner's Mind in Burlingame, and just getting to know the community. Because again,
Yeah.
I lived in a closed world.
Yeah, from a different vantage point for sure.
I lived in it was like, oh, everyone I trained with ran faster than 147, and people are coming in, but just high-fiving, the runners that are trying to complete their first 5K, learn this, as well as just getting to know the reps and what do they do, and, finding ways to still be in this sport, instead of just being the athlete. So I started off with that. And then while I was there, unfortunately, my father passed at the end of 2013. And I was like, this is the impetus. Like, I'm finishing my degree. And I basically, so my now wife was going to go to Yale for nursing school. So I was like, okay, she's going to be away. I've never had to take out student loans. I never had to do anything. I want to finish where I started. Like, I want my All-American plaques and my degree to come from the same place. So I reached out to the University of Tennessee, and, so luckily they started a thing called the RAC program. It was years ago, helped founded by Peyton Manning, for returning athletes that try to go pro or something happened, then they can go and finish.
Dang,
Nice job, Peyton.
Yeah.
And so I was part of the RAC program. I had to take 2 classes at a community college in California. And then I just get something that says, you're in and everything's covered. I mean, I had to pay for rent or whatever, but I'm back on pretty much full scholarship.
Wow.
Like, I was an athlete back in 2001. So I was a scared 30-something-year-old.
Seriously, that's incredible.
Scared 30-something-year-old going back to on-campus classes with a bunch of 20-year-olds. And I say this again, I know everyone can chuckle at how bad this is. My last semester's GPA in 2004 was like 0.7. My first semester back at 30-something was a 3.97.
Dude.
And I went Dean's List the last 3 semesters.
That's awesome.
I finished up with my very worthless degree. Shout out to classical civ and philosophy minors. But I
word up.
Yeah, wrote a lot of essays. But I was able to just be laser focused. Didn't have a drop of alcohol for those 18 months. No video games, no nothing. Just went about my business. And then after that, I moved to Connecticut for a few years to be with Amy. And then I was working at a great running shop there, Fleet Feet in West Hartford, Connecticut. And the owners were 2 sisters that just were like, hey, we know we don't have you very long, but do you want to do this for work for a company? And I'm like, yeah, it would be great to work for a brand. They're like, we will teach you how to run what we do, inventory management, all of that. And that parlayed into a 3.5-year job with ASICS. I did a small work with arch rival Adidas, and now doing what I'm doing in the footwear department at CEP.
Amazing.
So it's my third life.
When did you start with CEP?
Last February
Nice.
of 24. So I was doing something with arch rival Adidas, trying to get, more hype into Adidas getting back into run specialty. And I got a call from a mentor of mine. It was like, CEP's going to call, and they have a hidden project they want to pitch you. And so signed all the NDAs, did everything, and been working with them since.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing.
Dude, I love that I love that story. I'm so pumped that I came in completely, unadulterated
Same.
with that one. Why do you think you were so good? Like, what makes
That's a great
Marc
question.
Sylvester, meaning, how was it that you could, train for a couple months and be able to run as what you did? Like when you were back with Gags, or that you could be on, 11 the whole time in Tennessee, both with partying and running, and just being a kid that ate super ropes before all of his races in high school. Like, what was your gift? Because I'll preface it this way. We all know like it's like in basketball, right? Like you watch Jordan, times get tough in the game, he goes to his shot, right? We all kind of know what our little magic trick is. Like, are we tough? Are we fast? Are we twitchy? Are we a metronome? Are we patient? Like, what did you bring to the table consistently?
I think part of it, in looking back, was I'm not an overly anxious person. I think just in general, and I think that helped me. Like I never got into weird zones in warming up where I was super nervous. I almost deflected that, hence the super ropes. Hence, we all know we've been in enough of those bullpens in like high school racing when everyone's like, "Oh God, what's your PR?" Especially if you're like traveling outside of like Northeast Ohio or something. You're racing in Columbus and all there, and I used to just kid around like, well, if we all run sub 2 today, gentlemen, it's going to be a great day. And just not like kind of putting, I was like, hey, we're out here. So I had to find a way or I had ways of kind of deflecting that nervousness that some people just came in with some nervous energy. And sometimes that's a great thing and it drives them, and other people that can, push away. My pain tolerance was very high. And I think just gritting that stuff out really helped. My wife will tell you that if I have a head cold, I do not have any pain tolerance. I am a huge baby, but just anything else with like just how, you're doing the sprint work, you're doing all of that. It was just like, okay, I can do another one. I'm going to just, grind it out. And also part of it was my upbringing. A thread throughout this whole thing was, who am I? What is like the identity? What is the imprint I wanted to have on people of like, this is Marc Sylvester. And, especially going to schools like St. Dominic's and especially at Ignatius, like I didn't come from an affluent family.
Mm-hmm.
I was not in their social circles, but, we as guys, what's a big way to kind of even the like playing fields, like if you're good at sports or you're good at something, like you get those acceptances. And it was just something that I had, it's like one of those little kids that you're like, oh, that kid's pretty quick or whatever. But just honing that in and having that as, like the driving factor of acceptance for good or for bad was a main, factor. Cause, my family didn't know any of this stuff. My mom went to college. My dad didn't. The fact that, we had college coaches, we had Ron came to the house. Edric Florial, when he was at Stanford, came out. We had like all these college coaches like, oh, your son can have a full ride. My mom's like, no, he runs track. Like, you guys get scholarships for track? Like, okay. Like, we didn't know any of that. It was just get out there, compete at your like the best you can, look yourself in the mirror after, and just tough it out.
Just super gritty.
Yeah. The other interesting thing too is like you had style. And so where did that come from? Like, why did you pick that vibe?
Shout out to my sister. No, so the necklace thing was, oh God. Well, most of us were doing something similar to that in the late 90s, like one or two.
Yeah.
But people would give me things. And it was if it was like friends or whatever, it was part of keeping them with me.
Oh, that's cool.
So I would always have those. And then in high school, it broke off. So I didn't really have it in college as much, but I had the Kairos cross, which was representative of everything, the religious symbols and everything for Ignatius. And then my sister, she would have still been in high school. Maybe, she probably would have been in high school by then. Was at Claire's and got me the little like jelly band things that would just put up my wrist and everything. But it was from her. And I was like, I didn't care. I mean, it's
the first editions of like armbands.
Yeah,
and all
like,
that
I
sort of stuff.
just didn't care. I was like, okay, because a lot of my contemporaries or friends are like, they'll tell me stories. They'll be like, oh yeah, because this was all pre-internet and all this. Like, yeah, we heard like Tennessee has this badass 800-meter runner and everything. And then like I would show up on the line and I would have like 4 hemp necklaces and like jelly bracelets on my wrist, and like, this is the badass. And it's like, yeah, I mean, even in high school.
That's what I'm saying.
On your mark, get set, go.
Yeah, like even high school, and he and I kid about it. My good friend Brandon Giles, who coaches at Oak Park in Michigan, great program. We would do the Don Roosevelt meet where the Michigan kids would come down to Dayton. He was the defending state champ out of Michigan his senior year, my sophomore year, and like we're next to each other. And he just always like goes, man, I was clowning you on the line because I had these like red Nike spikes with like rainbow laces because I just didn't care. And then I just, tore him up on the backstretch, and he's just like, yep, I guess you don't judge a book by its cover, I guess. But yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. You got to have that. You got to have that type of like, I mean, I just remember even being like at Akron at one point we got, we were on our upswing of becoming more of like a respected program before we got Clayton. And there was like a couple years after the fact, I was having a party at the house that I lived at. This after I graduated, and we had some like old Kent State runners over, and we were playing some drinking games, and me and my old teammate, we were winning, and we were just goofing off. And he's like, and like one of the Kent State guys was like, we lost to these guys. Like look at these guys. And we're just like goofing off. And,
yeah. I mean, it was also just ingrained throughout stuff at Ignatius. I mean, my sophomore year when we won the 4-bait, we wore white t-shirts that in Sharpie, it was like, where are my dogs at? Because It's Dark in Hell is Hot just came out. And it's like someone else in the other one in Sharpie all messed up, be like, right here, dog. Like, it was just stupid stuff that we did because we were like, I don't know. It's great. You have your matching uniforms. We're a bunch of goofballs. But, once I have to lock in, then I'm going to lock in. I mean,
that's just the expectation.
Yeah. And it was just, you're in the, senior year, high school stuff. Like you're in the bullpen with everyone, like, be cordial, be nice, make sure everyone's okay. And then all of a sudden they're walking you down. And as soon as they're walking me down, I'm like, I will now destroy all of you.
Yeah.
I will see you in, less than 2 minutes. And I hope you have a wonderful one. You're not going to beat me, but like, I hope you're doing well. And like, good luck.
That's pretty badass.
It's pretty fascinating hearing you talk about your career and your experiences, and a lot of things come to mind. And one of the things that comes to mind is like, it just seems like through everything, you always had so much energy. And I feel like through your Tennessee years, you probably just didn't know where to put that energy. And I think of like, and I know Fernando might actually listen to this episode, but I remember in 2006, I think it was the USA AK Championships in New York. And it was it was supposed to be on St. Patty's Day, which was Saturday that year. And the race was going to be in the morning, and then everybody was going to go party in New York because it's St. Patty's Day and it's awesome. Well, there was a snowstorm that happened, so the race got postponed to Sunday. So then everybody got pissed because they go out and party in New York City for St. Patty's Day. Well, a couple people did. And I vividly remember Fernando Cabada coming out of a cab with his outfit on from being up all night partying, and literally took off his outfit, and he had his race uniform under it, and then got 5th that year in the AK champs. And it's like, that dude was just always, he had so much energy and so much intensity.
Just a lot, yeah.
And it reminds me of you, like having like the ability to like, that's just one tough dude. He's like probably still got alcohol in his system. And then he's hammers out whatever time you ran for the AK.
Oh, I remember meeting Fernando when he was at Arkansas before everything else happened. So I remember meeting him, being part of that crop of class. Actually, I talked to him just a few years ago back in Fresno. And it's just, I mean, you always just knew, some of the stories, good or bad and everything, but like, that was just a tough dude.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
And also, some of the energies, and this is something like, I guess, parallel, and Fernando, I'm not going to speak for you here on this one, but like, the likability of someone like that as well, because of the energy. Very, if you have this, then like you had these second and third chances that other people didn't get.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to have these second and third chances. It wasn't blackballed from the sport. It wasn't this. I don't think I did anything super egregious, but like, anything like that where I was still to be, I can be where I am now. And he was another one of those guys because he had his detours. He was at what was that? VMI, or where was he at?
Yeah, so that's why I know of him, because he went and ended up in the NAI against me. So Virginia Intermount.
Yeah. And just, and then you see like his name popping up and you're like, wait a minute, I think he was at Arkansas and then it was here, but he just kept his nose to the grindstone and just did absolutely wonderful things. So yeah, I mean, the energy definitely is high, which is good or bad thing when you're like the high energy fun person, because then also the expectation is you're going to be the high energy fun person and you have to start carrying the evenings and everything. So double-edged sword there.
Right.
Stories.
So as we're rounding third on the episode here, is there any final stories or, tidbits or, commentary you want to give on some people that might not know some of the history of Marc Sylvester?
I mean, I don't know if there's any like crazy, like anything that would be more inspirational or anything that'd be super funny or anything like that. Just, for anyone that's listening, especially like the younger people out there, just, stay the course. I had obviously you've been listening to me talk. I've had a very circuitous path in life, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But, still trying to strive every day, forward. One thing that I tell a lot of young people and the young runners, if there's, high school runners or some of them, just like keep a journal and keep it written. Like write stuff down. Even if you think your day was mundane, like if you had a math test, write that down. Because if you're looking at a holistic view of your entire month, and you're like, man, this workout was horrible. Like, don't start getting into a negative place. Like you can look at something really like, well, I was up studying for trig all night, or something like this. And you can kind of look at everything and literally write it down. I know we live in this digital age, but there's something about pen to paper that just, pulls out emotion. And this could be the now California hippie in me, but, where I can be and I can sit here with you all, discussing these things, opening up wounds, doing whatever, was a lot of meditation, a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of that's what happened, but that's not going to define who I am going forward. So, and that there was a lot of journaling, a lot of that. So write things down, kids. I mean, it's nothing. And also just compete. Like, don't get caught up looking at times. Don't look at this. Just be the best you can. And, just every day, one foot in front of the other. I guess I'll leave it on this. First day I'm on Tennessee's campus, I meet Jose Perilla, who's our school record holder, 92-96 Olympian, ran 143.9 as a sophomore. He comes over to me and he's like, "Oh, you're Sylvester. You're supposed to be the hot shot." I'm like, I guess. I don't know. He goes, "All right, I'm going to teach you how to run the 800." And I'm like, "Ooh, okay, this is going to be great." And all he says to me is, "One foot in front of the other, you turn left and haul ass." 800-meter runners, we don't have to worry about math. It's 2 laps. And that's all he said. And sometimes, people, it's as simple as that.
It is.
Yeah. That is so awesome. Those are great words of wisdom to end the episode on.
Yeah, that's
well.
great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys.
We people might not know this, but obviously Zach and I have known of Marc forever, but we just met you basically a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is the universe works in weird ways.
Right.
It's very serendipitous.
I met Marc and I was like, "Dude, you got to come on our show. Absolutely have to." Like, you're on a very short list of names that people have begged to get on the show. And so it just worked out great that you're here in town and we can make it happen.
Thank you.
We'll selfishly tell those people to finally put me in the Ohio Track and Field Hall of Fame.
There we go. That's
my own selfish plug. And Tiana Madison.
I hear it.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. Ended on that.
Selfish plug.
We'll push it. We'll try to push it through. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
So much.
Oh, thank you guys.
It was a pleasure.
This was a blast.
Yeah, this was.
Till another day. Thank you guys. Here. Be sure to check out my new book, Faster Without Fail, Your Guide to Overcoming Injuries and Running Faster Than Ever. It is now available on Amazon. You could read reviews on the Amazon. You can check out what other people have said about it. But basically, if you want to revolutionize your running form and better understand how to stay injury-free within the sport, this is your guide. Feel free to reach out and let us know what you think of the book. I would love to hear your feedback, but again, please check it out on Amazon. Faster Without Fail. Appreciate it. Dr. Leo here. If you want to catch me in another setting, be sure to check out my YouTube page, Running Rehab, where you will find exercises on how to stay healthy with running, how to improve your running form, and a bunch of other tips and tricks on how to get over common injuries. So again, running rehab